Welcome back, Flutter developers. Welcome to my channel. In today's code recipe, we will be seeing how to create a login page. We will make use of Firebase Auth authentication to achieve that. In today's code recipe, we will be using two different ways to do the login, to implement the login functionality in your app. One way is to have user email, and their any account password, any password of their choice for your account right here, and login. If they don't have login credentials, then they can use register to make the login account for themselves. If they do not want to do that, they can also use their Google account to log in into your app. So let's see how it will work. So in here, I will be using my existing account, for example. So I'm just using some hypothetical credentials that I created. And if I say login, it will go here and it will show me my name. So here is just showing my email, and since I don't have a profile pic, it's just showing it out here and a logout. So if I go back there, now if I want to register with a new name that I don't have, so say ptyagi and .com, say 20, and password. Okay, so what it does, it creates an account in Firestore and shows create me a credential right here, and here's the dot, and this is my logout. So come back. So if you want to do the Google sign-in, you have to set up your device. It should have a Google sign-in beforehand, and then when you log in, it will show you the list of all Google logins you have. But in here, it's not showing me for some reason, and it logs in and will bring my profile picture from my Google account here and shows my name right here. And we log out, we come back in here. So let's see how it's being done in the Firebase, like how we can set up our project in Firebase first. So this is my Firebase recipe. This is my Flutter, my code recipe project right here. And these are my lots of logins that I tried when I was testing. And the recent one I created that's ending with 20. So let's search. Oops, it didn't show very well. So let's refresh and say 20. Okay, it's going by the user ID. By email address, looks like I have to put my, so I can see my email is right here that I created, ptyagi@ptyagi.com 20, and I just created today, and that's my user ID right here. So if I copy my UUID and I do here, okay, so the search goes by the UUID, not really on identifier of its own. As we saw, it didn't really work like that, so it doesn't work. So it works on when we give a full UUID like this. Okay, great. And for this app to work, you have to enable the email and password functional sign provider, and also Google if you want to make use of Google sign-in in your app. All right, now let's see how it's being stored. I'm using Firestore to store my login user profiles. So in here, make sure your rules, you have your rules right here, set it up. And here I have I need a authorization, so anyone can read, but I need to be able to write, I need authorization. Well, in this case, I should also have my request.auth. I should not be able to read my profile unless I have an authorization here. So we'll fix it later. All right, so here I have my user information, that's my test account, and that's my Google account that creates my accounts right here, and that's my users. Okay, it's just refreshing. Yeah, so my Google accounts are created here. Now let's go back to the code. Okay, and check back in here. So that's my app here, and as I can show you, so what this whole project is, it has a my code recipe project. So if I log out, let's come back out here, log out every in here, or let's run it again, just reload it. Okay, so that's my my all recipes are here. So in the login, the Firebase Google sign-in recipes right here, so which is this thing I'm showing in a list view, and if I click on it, it just goes click to demo. I will show you why I added this thing. It's to take care of a bug that I was facing as an issue. So the issue is reported as right here at the Stack Overflow. So what was happening, my keyboard was disappearing when I'm entering data in text form field. So to avoid this issue, I had to add this button in a case. So let's see how I'm organizing my code in here. So as you see, my code, my whole project is right here. And you can see my all recipes are in each folder, like in the list, recipes go in a list, login, menu, switch, and so on. And there are some files which are common, like main.dart, recipes.dart, and router. So in this particular project, you will be really concerned with router.dart, because router.dart is what we have used for navigation, like navigation hopping from one page to another. And like when I say login, it goes to the user profile. That's where it's get rerouted. And the second is the recipes.dart. Recipes.dart is nothing to do with this particular code recipe, but just for your information, this is where I show my lists of my different recipes. This is a list view. And that's pretty much that you would need in this. This is the common files. And widgets.lib is a login button that I've used to show my these round buttons right here. So just to give a quick overlook on this login buttons. So it's always a good idea to have these widgets which are usable, having to keep it in one file or in different files depending on how many widgets you have, so that you can reuse them. So in particular widget, I have created the login button, and this is a custom widget, and it's a stateless widget, and it has a text which is variable, and the height that I would like it to be passed, and background color that I would like it to be passed from the parent widget that's using it, and the on function, like what would happen if I click on this. Like if I click this, well, this is the validation, but if we click this, what happens? So this is what is being passed here, and it's a constraint box, and which has a constraint to expand. So what does this mean? Keep my height, whatever I give you, so it's 44 here, and expand to the remaining area. So it's a constraint box around it, and in this, and the constraint is expand but keeping my height depending on the available area. All right, and this is my raised button right here, which has a text on it, and the color is white, size is 20, and the shape is rounded rectangle border. This is what is giving this shape, and the border radius is the 1/4 of the height, and is circular. So this is how I'm achieving this, and you can play around with these values. Like if I put 2 and I hot reload it, something gone, yeah, so it became more rounder. And now if I say 9, let's see what happens. It will become more edgier. Okay, something is wrong with my, okay, my hot reload is, okay, there you go. So this becomes more rectangular-ish. So lesser the, oh, okay, lesser is the value, the more round it is. All right, so my app got restarted. Let it come back. And all right, so that's my reusable widget. That's what I have in widgets lib for this code recipe. In my util.dart, I keep some strings. So in this particular util.dart is all the strings are from a different recipe, so we don't have to worry about this one in this in this code recipe. And this unknown.dart is the one I use for navigation. So for example, if I my net path is not found, then it will show render me this page. This is a good practice to have it. Yes, router.dart is the important file here, and what it does, let's go over it. So I have a user profile. So if I want it to direct my page to user profile, what it will do is it will create a material page route, and it will have arguments that I pass to it. And this is a change provider, so I'm using a provider pattern here, provider package, to use this change notify provider. And child of it is the user profile page, which is my profile page. And this on sign out and the current user, whatever the user is got from the argument right here. And on sign out, I would want it to go back to my login page. So this is what happens like when I send my request to open my profile, user profile page. So what I need is, I need my user, a Firebase user in this case, and I want to wrap it around into my change notify provider. And the similar thing we do in my login page. So in login page, things are slightly easier because we don't, it's actually pretty much same. So you see here we are doing something nicer. We are passing the user using the, so in the user we are passing from here, as you see. So this is the callback method that I define for my login page, and I pass a user to it whenever I call my login page. So if there is no user, I just pass null. So for first time there is no user, so it's null. So why I need this user? I need this user because if a user is present, then my control should actually go to the profile page, not to the so it shouldn't go to the login. It should redirect to the profile page. So that's why I have to pass this user. So when this user is null, I have to just show the login page. If this user is not null, I should go to the profile page. Okay, so we saw the app structure, the code base structure, how this app is structured all together. So this is my list of recipes that I have, and each of these column maps to this the recipes .dart. And if I click on this, so recipe widget defines this, it's a each list style, and there's a padding, there's a title, and there's a subtitle. And if I tap on it, it will go to that the router and will open that particular recipe. And each recipe has its own name, so that's the page name opens up. That's the router does it whenever it come across that particular name. So if I say my login page and it finds the login page right here, it will open my login page. Yeah, so that's pretty much it to the app architecture for this code recipes altogether. So okay, so today we'll focus just on this login one, and I have a little button here which launches my demo. And so you will be interested in this folder, login folder, and it has 4 files here. Auth services, which is for all the login functionality goes in there, and Firebase login is the main startup. So that's where the starting point of this page is. That's where this page got constructed in the beginning, and not really constructed but initiated. And in login page is for this whole page, comes as a login page, and the user profile page is the one what we saw after we log in. There's a little text right there picture and the logout button. That's a user profile page. All right, so let's check out the dependencies that we will need for this app. So we need Google sign-in if you're interested in signing with Google functionality. So at the time of this recording, this is the version, was the latest one. And the second thing is the provider. So I'm using provider pattern or the change notifier pattern or the package for this particular login to implement this login functionality. So what provider pattern does is, so you have a notifier. So it's like a subscriber and notifying notifiers and the subscribers model to it. So there are the observers, and with these observers observes the observables, and the same thing here. So we have our login service, which is the auth service right here. So let's quickly check in here. So for example, I have my sign in functionality here and I sign in. So but my other app needs to know when I'm signed in. So I have to my app is a observer, which is observing my service, like if the state of my app, if it's signed in or not, so that it can show it the right information. So it goes logins and then notifies to my whole app that I'm signed in, and do whatever you need to do now, since I have my Firebase user. So you can go ahead and show it to the profile page now. So that's how this pattern works. So there are two parts to it. One thing that we are doing in the router, or whenever you call a page in that, it should be added as a child to the change notifier provider. So we need this provider, and this is the method, the utility method that we get from our provider package that we just added here, right here. So that's the reason we have our provider package here, so that we can get this utility method, change notifier provider, of type of fire auth service, and it's the parent to the page, which is the observer. So user profile page is actually interested in knowing the state of the authorization. So this has to be notified whenever there is a change in the auth at auth service side or in this file. So when you use a sign in, sign out, it has to notify to all listener. So this is the user profile page is registered as a listener, if you can say that way. So so this was the second thing that we need to do. And the third thing is, in the service, the way we implemented, we have to have a change notifier. So whenever we create a class, the notifier class, which notifies to other components in an app, has to be initialized with a change notifier. It comes from the or you can say extend pretty much from the provider package. All right, and there's a little thing you might have noticed. I have a base auth service here, and I'm extending that service by my fire auth service. I do it because it's easy for me to write unit test. If I abstract my basic functionality or my methods other than my implementation, it makes my life much easier when I go and write my unit test right here. So here I can write my unit test much quickly than, and it's in a cleaner manner. So that's why I have abstracted this class right here. All right, so going back to the dependencies, the three dependencies are related with the Firebase. The Firebase core, we need Firebase, so we need core. The auth is for authorization. It's for the thing I just showed you about in here, so for authentication. So if we want to make use of sign-in methods, we must have the Firebase Auth package right there. And there is a last package is related with the database cloud store. is right here, Cloud Firestore right here. So that's my last package, is the Cloud Firestore right here to save my user profiles. All right, so that's all to the dependencies at this point, and let's close it. And now let's see how my entry point is implemented. So this is my Firebase Auth login state. So whenever I click on in here, like in the list item before, it opens up like this is stateful widget, the Firebase Auth login starts, and what it does is it actually starts demo. So what demo is, it just opened the login page. So nothing fancy. It just opened the login page and it passed the user, which is passed to it in a closure. And when there is no user, it's in no user, then it will be simple null in that case. And in here, you might notice I'm not using scaffold here because my each whole page, login page and profile page are self-capable. So they have their own pages right here. Sorry, its own UI, fully defined UI here. I did that because I'm routing or opening pages from right here. So that's why I took that approach. All right, so this is my back to our Firebase logins. All right, so this is my start demo. So this login page starts my this page. Okay, and what it does is, let's check out the its build method. So build is here, right here, and what it does is, if there's no data, it opens this, and if there is data, it opens the future widget. So what does it mean, like no data, and why do I have this anyway? So I actually didn't have it in the beginning. So the way I had is, okay, in the body, use the start from the future builder. So listen to my Firebase current user. So the provider, so once is logged in, I can get my current user from my Firebase API. And it's an async task, of course. And then I will have my builder, which is async snapshot. So I see my user retrieved from the Firebase Firestore, and then it checks like a connection is done or not. If it's done, it checks if it has a data in it, and if it's not, then it goes here. But if it does, it opens the profile page. And so what it does, it passes the user to the profile page, and one more thing it passes on sign out. So what it does is, like when you sign out from user profile page, what action needs to be taken there. So what will happen there when once it's get to the user profile page, and there's a sign out button. So we pass a functionality from here. So which is, if you click on it, so it's when a user sign out, so basically come back to my this whole API, the whole page, the login page. This is what it's for. And now you see, if it's data is there, is good. But if there's no data, so I turn this flag on here, and you see I create this interesting button, which is a click to demo that you saw in the black before. So it's right here. It just showed once in the beginning. So the reason I have it here, because when technically I can have my login page like what I'm doing here, like I can show, okay, if I have my data, show me user profile page. If I don't have data, show me login page, right? But I had this bug where if I create my login page right here, my UI will flicker. So if I try to go here, my keyboard will come and go back. It will come back and go back. So I realized it could be because of this, because my login page or my text form fields are in the async, like where it's kind of always in connected state. So that's why probably is causing the issue. But I couldn't find the right answer yet. So I have put my posting a problem here, right here. So if you have a better explanation, please feel free to chime in right here, and this is my issue here. So my code, this works pretty fine, like for text form, fields form are nice, there's no problem in that. But when I put inside my future builder, like when there is a data, so that's where it doesn't like it. So in theory it should be as simple as it is, like if it has data, give the data, like pass the my data to my user profile page. If it's not, just go to the login page. But unfortunately I couldn't get through it, so I had to add this little bit hack to avoid that problem. And if case data is loading, show them the circular progress indicator. All right, so that's the first the first thing in the UI. So if we go a little bit inside, let's get in the auth service first to check on different kind of functionalities that we have. And this is a very important class. It's kind of the brain of this code recipe. So so please pay extra attention to it. And of course the code will be available on the GitHub after this video. And let's see, so what we have here Firebase Auth and instance, and we have current user, which is you can get from Firebase Auth current user. And for the plain sign-in, for the email sign-in, the Firebase provides the sign-in with email password method. And once you're signed in, you may want to notify your listeners, which is your app, like, hey, I'm logged in, please update your state. And here is my Google sign-in. So in Google sign-in has been changed slightly. The API is changed slightly, but it's pretty much the same. So you have to get a Google sign-in. We have to get a Google user. Then we have to get a Google Auth, like authentication, and then auth credentials using the access token and the ID token. And then we use the Firebase user to like in sign in with credentials. So we pass these credentials into the Firebase auth, and we get our user from there. And make sure you wrap this call before the passing. This is important. All right. Now we update our user. So we create our user entry right here in the Firebase user and to notify our users. All right, so what we do in the update user, we create a document reference like users here, get a document for user ID, and then for UID we create these five field: UID, display name, photo URL, email, and last active, and it keeps getting updated in the Firestore. So right here, so if you see in Firestore, so I have two users, I am doing it for my I'm doing it for my Google sign-in account right now, and it has display name, email, active, last active, photo URL, and UID. All right. Okay. So, and in the create user, what it does is, so I'm not creating a document in the Firestore for my created user, though I should have, or I can do that for them too. But here I just missed it. So here what I'm doing, I'm just updating the display name for after I get the login, I create the user. So what this function does is it create user in the authentication, like it creates user right here. That's what this does. All right, so that it's this user is available right there, user account is there to be able to access it. And either you can do that programmatically, or you can simply add here if you don't want to go through that. Say ptyagi at ptyagi say 21.com and say ptyagi is the password. And now let's see. So this is my, I go here and I oops, sorry, I really can't paste it, but let's copy here ptyagi at ptyagi21.com and ptyagi and login. So I will be able to log in because I created the user. So that's pretty much it does. But we can definitely we can create a document here in the database in the profile. Profile we can store like this, like we are doing for our Google users. All right, let's go back in here. So, and the last is sign out. So once you sign out, you also may want to notify your whole app that a status of the app is changed to signed out. Okay, so and the logout. So how the logout works is you click on in here and it comes out there. So let's check the user login page. Login page, like what happens when it goes to the login. So it gets on sign in. This method is passed. So when it sign in, so if you're signed in, so basically if you got a successful sign in, you push back it to the forward to the information, the user information to the user profile page. We'll see where it's being it's being done later on. So here this is the simple, like the whole app hierarchy, like how the columns are being made. So you can map to it. So of course it is scaffold right here, and the login page is the title. I'm keeping it in a scroll view, and this is a container, and this is padding. I'm giving 16 and putting a column because I want to put the elements on widgets or in the vertical order. And you see, like my column is here, and then creating another container to keep this padding, this little padding right here, and to keep it little nice and aligned in the middle. So that's the reason I have this container here. And in that container, I have this little form right here. So that's where it comes. And I have a global key for my form right here. And inside again, that's a column to put this one. And these things I'm constructing separately. So this one was one list view, and these buttons are the one list view. And there is a little gap in between, which is this gap is in between is the size box 30. I gave it here. All right, so in here you can see in the login form, if you go here, is an email, and in email the decoration I'm doing input decoration, and which says email. So what does it mean is it creates the email right here. And what validator means, so if I try to hit forms, if I try to submit the form, and if I have it empty, it says, hey, email can't be empty. So this is the built-in feature you have by default. On saved is email, so whatever the value is passed to it, I can save it in a different variable, say underscore email. The same thing for password. The only difference is it's obscure, text is true, so that someone can't see what I'm typing here. And autocorrect is false because I do not want my password to be autocorrected. I definitely want it, which doesn't make sense. All right, so and the same thing on saved and validator is the same. Now the submission options is the form submission options. So one, we have a login button right here, and we are doing the same as we did in the demo button. We have a key for login. So we need these keys mainly for if we are planning to do the unit testing, and that we should, that we can access this component using these keys. So that's a one good point, having these keys in here. And we have login, and blue is a and on pressed it goes to submit form. We'll see it in a bit. And now these things, it's a button. The down there is a register, is a full flat button. That's why you really don't see it as a button, but it acts like a button. So when I say act like a button, it's when you say on pressed, it will go and register. And there's a two type of forms in the login and the register. So if my form type is login, it will show me login here, and here the message will show, hey, do you want to register if you don't have an account? But if I click on register right here, the same form reveals again, and it clears the text in here, and so that you can enter your data, that email and password that you want to be create account with. And and it changes, the login changes to the register right here, right here. All right, so that's the only two things the submission option does. And the one thing you will see there is a little sized button here. Let me scoot over right here. Let's close this one. Close this one. Okay, now we can see clear. All right, so in here we have in the middle, so this is where it's done. Our little form is done right here. And let's check out quickly our submit, where we are submitting our form. So in submit form, what it does, you can access your form using the form key.current state, and you can validate it. So this is inbuilt functionality, validate and then save your form. So, and to hide your keyboard, you might want to use focus scope. You have to get out of focus, otherwise you will not, if I don't have it here, my keyboard won't close of its own. It will just keep standing right here. So if it like, I just do it right here, and so if I type something here, it won't go out of focus. But so if I say register or test2.com and say okay, this navigated away. But if you don't have that, so you might want to use it if your keyboard doesn't go out of focus. This request focus, like it takes it out of the focus and it closes the keyboard. And then what it does is, so if my form type is login, it gets from provider, like the notifier notifies to all the app components, and the provider, this utility function or method which is in the package, provider package, helps us to pass the information from notifier to the components. So that's how I'm getting this utility method provider.auth of authorization service, which is my change notifier, and sign in method for that, and it will return asynchronously my Firebase user to it when it's done. So it happens when it's login. So if it's a login form, it takes and sign in, and if it's register, like here, if it's register, it actually creates the user, which is the user we just saw. All right, now we get our user base, Firebase user ID right here, and it will show a little message. So what we do it, like, hey, like sign in user with this ID. So I'll show you. So let's enter the email that we have already and say I'm logging in, for example, or say register. So I might want to change it. It's say 22. Oops, click. It looks like it froze. Okay, yeah, so it's signed in and into the account, and this text might be printed there if I don't redirect it. But in my on sign in method, I'm redirecting it to here. So if you say quickly in on sign in, I have passed from here, and if you see from here, so what I'm doing in here is in the sign in, I'm getting the Firebase user, which is my this email, and sending my router information, take this user and go to this user profile page. So that's what is happening. That's why we came here. All right, let's come out of it. So that's what's happened in the login page. And if something is not good, it gives that warning here. So if a user is not found, I specifically say, hey, please register first, or it gives some like this, like if this is not an email and I try to log in, what it says is sign in error, this email address is badly formatted. So these things are inbuilt by Firebase Auth. And then and in the register, so if it goes to register, it sets the form. So this is what it does for resetting the form. So if you do not want to reset the form when you change it, you may want to, you may not want to use these lines for reset. Like if in the login you had something like YAGI 3 5 and what whatever.com, and you added something and you say, oh, it was a login, and I know my login pass is not there, login information is not there, I just want to actually register it, I do not want to enter my whole information again. In that case, it actually resets right now. It happens because I have this code here, because if it goes to register, it actually reset my form. If you do not want to do that, then you may want to just comment it out, then it will stays here. All right, so in the login form we reviewed it, and in the hint text, this is little text that's being shown here in the gray. Yeah, so that covers our whole login screen. And now let's go and check quickly in the user profile screen. So let's sign in here, and right here, okay, so we just saw it, we were in the wrong, at pdygi.com and pdygi, and you just log in. Okay, so this is my profile page, and this is a little picture right here. So here I'm doing some error handling, like if my username is not there, profile pic is not there, it should just give some default. And it's the very same UI, just have some text centered in the middle in a single child scroll view, which keeps it inside. And if your page overflows, it keeps it moving. And you have a little size box, so the little gaps here are you achieve using the sized box right here. And there's a little button, raise button, which has the sign out. So if it's sign out, that's the important method right here. So first, what it first does, it calls the method in the sign out in the provider right here. And another thing it does is it calls the sign out on the widget. So the on sign out method that we passed from our Firebase login right here. So this is being called eventually. And what it does is it simply sends back to the login page. So if it calls here, it goes to the router and it goes here. And what this guy does, so it sees, it checks the sign in, it checks if user is passed or not. If it's not passed, then it simply gives the so it simply it's just see it's logging out right here. So login page, let's see how it's dealing with the user. So if there is no user, it simply shows the login screen, the empty login screen to start with. Yeah, so that's what it does. And the last thing now, the sign in with Google. So in sign in with Google is the, here it is the, this little authentication dance happens right here. And in regular cases, if you click on it, it will give you the bunch of your accounts, whatever is installed or set up on your device. In my case, it used to show, but right now it's not showing. And it goes back, fetch the information from Google account. It shows my name and my profile picture and the logout. So I can simply log out right here and I'm back to my screen. So that's what two things we did here. We achieved the login authentication, integrating login using the Firebase authentication, using the email and password, and the Google sign-in. And if if the login doesn't exist, we saw how to register it. So I hope you like this video, and please leave the feedback if you have a question or you want a specific thing me to write about or make video about. Please leave the comments down below, and thank you very much. See you in the next video.